Hello guys, I've got another bike here now. It's the Royal Enfield 350 Standard, and this is the bike that kept Royal Enfield going, and they made it relentlessly. Oh, I don't know, 87 years was it? I think 1955 or 1954 to 2009. 2009 is the latest one I've seen. It's the staple diet that Royal Enfield just kept churning them out for decades, and kept them going. This is my little 350, which has a dog's life because it's used through the winter. You can hear the engine's pretty mechanically silent. It's done very little mileage. It had 3 owners when I bought it, and that only managed to do 3,000 kilometres on it, which is, I don't know, 1,500 miles, is it? I put on another 2,500 on it, and it hasn't been cleaned since the winter. I haven't ridden it during the winter because it's awaiting another gearbox, because I used it in the winter and that's what killed it, basically. It killed the gearbox. Now, their grease-filled gearbox from Enfield India, and it was a really bitingly cold winter's day, and I went out on it, and I mean it was a frost. It was well below freezing, and I'm going to turn it off a bit because you probably can't hear what I'm saying, but there we are. Yeah, it was a cold winter's day, and I just used it, and I was freezing cold, but it's got the fairing on it, which is nice. It keeps the wind off your cold, icy blast. Yeah, so I used it, and all of a sudden, one day, while it was under load, I could hear a sort of roaring, grating noise, and I thought, what is that then? And it sounded like it was coming out the primary chain case cover, but it wasn't. It was coming from the gearbox. And the next day was just as cold. So what I did was I whipped the kickstart off and the gear shift and the outer cover of the gearbox and the neutral finder lever, pulled that off, and then pulled the inner cover, which exposes all the gears and everything. And to my horrification, it was like all the grease, because it was so cold, had gone really thick, and the gears had flung it up to the sides of the casings, and the gears were running in a hollow. There was no grease getting to them, it was all stuck to the sides. So I thought, oh god. Anyway, so it's like caused loads of wear to the gears. The bearings have gone in the on the main shaft, and I bought a brand new 5-speed box and clutch to go in it. We've got a visitor. It wouldn't be one of my videos if we haven't got a cat in it, but there we are. And we've got to, what we normally do, they don't go far without me. Anyway, cut long story short, so it's basically worn the gearbox out in less than 3,000 miles. Yeah, the grease might be really good for hot countries like India, but over here with our climate, no. So I thought, well, I'm not going to fix this gearbox straight away. I mean, I will rebuild it because it is a spare gearbox for the 500s and whatever. If I put a main shaft in it, a longer main shaft, it'll fit the interceptors and the Meteor Minor. So it's a good source of. It needs rebuilding basically, and I can use it again. But there is such a gap between third and fourth, and I mean, you really don't notice it on the interceptors, because you change that gap, you don't even notice it. It's got so much power, it just accelerates again really hard in fourth. But these, because they've got so little power, I mean, I don't know what they are, 18 horsepower, something like that. When you change from third to fourth, you think the world is falling apart. It just cannot really pick itself up. It struggles to pull fourth gear. It's fine when you get it motoring, but it's just too big a gap, and I thought, well, if anything needs a 5-speed box in it, it's this. So I bought a brand new 5-speed box from India, and a clutch, 5-speed clutch, because the hubs are different. So I've just got to find the time to whip the engine out the frame, pull the gearbox off, change it over, and it's back on the road again. I mean, it's all taxed and insured and everything. This one's 2007, so it's getting towards the last production of them. I love it. I know it's got non-standard seat on it, non-standard fairing, non-standard panniers, but it's really comfortable, and you're not going to set the world alight. I was replying to my last video to a commenter, and he said that the 350 was a get you to work bike, and you could smoke your pipe on the way, which is lovely, isn't it? He said they're charming old things, and they are charming old things. The engine is 6.5 to 1 compression ratio. I mean, it's nothing. It hasn't got enough power to wear itself out, but it will keep chugging away. Cruising speed 50. And like I said in the comment, to the reply to the comment that the guy put, I said, depending on phases of the moon and planetary alignment and how high the local tide is, it will just about hit 60. You're not going to set the world on fire with these, you're not. The classic reborns will run rings around these, absolutely run rings around these. I've had guys on little 125s overtaking me. Even twist and go scooters, I can't get near them, so I'll keep away from them. But I just thought I'd show you this, because this is the bike that Royal Enfield made from 1955 right up to 2009, I think, last of the iron barrel bullets, and they're a great bike. They are a great bike. They're like a two-wheel dumper truck. That's all I can describe them. Yeah, a bit of a little walk round. It's got this huge fairing on there, which keeps the wind off you, and you don't notice it when you're on the headwind, but that was already on the bike when I bought it. I've not put anything on it. It's just as I bought it. It's just a great bike. Everything works really well on it. I've had no problems with it at all. It's ever so easy to start. Yeah, the seat is an addition, and they're not cheap, but it makes it really comfortable. I mean, I'm 6'6", and I ride about on it, no problem. I'm comfortable, you know. I mean, I've used it for commuting and to and from a job, and that was about 60 miles each way. Yeah, you'd have to leave early in the morning to get there for midday, but there we are. No, it's a lovely bike, and the only problem I've had is the engine oil starts getting condensation in it, because the engine hasn't got enough power to make enough heat to heat the engine oil up, and so you get condensation in it. And even on long runs, really long runs, it just still gets condensation in it. It hasn't been too bad these last few days, because it would be really hot, and it would have got hot. But I mean, even the 500s get a lot hotter than this, but this just does not heat the oil up, because the oil's in a separate casting. Yes, there he is, sooty. That's where the oil is, in there, and that's cast part of the the crankcase. So it is all the heat in the crankcase should pass through to that and into the oil. So it's for faster warm-ups. It's a good idea. But I mean, it's stood now for a couple of 3 months since I last had it out. That's why it's so dusty. Turned the petrol on, pulled the choke on, one kick, that's away. You know, and I need to keep running. I need to get the petrol out of it, because you know what modern petrol's like, it just goes off really quick. But yeah, rusty old downpipe, because it's a winter bike. This was brand new. I put it on, and within 3 days it looked like that. So that might get a coat of matte black. It's the wrong size anyway, but it's just one I picked up. I've rejetted the carburetor because it was straight through pipe. Yeah, I mean, it's a nice old thing, you know. I mean, you know, they're out there. You see them on eBay, and they're not a lot of money. Not a lot of money at all. I bought this one in Lancashire, and the guy had enough of it. And I think the 3 previous owners had enough of it as well, because it's such low mileage. But I found out when I got on it, I thought, oh dear, this is slow. Oh dear, this is seriously slow. So I thought, I don't know, it sounds retarded to me. So I checked the ignition timing, and it was a 1/16 of an inch after top dead centre. That's when the spark occurred. And you know, it should be well before top dead centre. So I retimed it, and it transformed it. It made it go properly. But yeah, so this is the iconic bike. I mean, I've noticed I've got quite a few subscribers that are in India, and if they can understand my mumblings, they will instantly recognise this bike. It's the bike that their country sort of went round on, really. Shame they stopped making it, because it is just as it was in 1954. There is differences on the frames. You know, be very careful. I think Paul Henshaw did a video on this as well. If they're claiming it's a 50s Bullet, because this does happen sometimes. People get an Indian Enfield and then try and palm it off as an original one. These bars here, let's go there. You'll never see those on a British Enfield. The tube comes up and curves in, and there's no bolt here. It's just onto the frame. Go and watch Paul Henshaw's video, Performance Classics, and if you want to know more about that, he's got all the frames out, and he'll show you all the differences between Indian and Reddish built Enfields. It shows you the difference on the engines and everything. He's a knowledgeable guy, quite entertaining, and go and check him out, Paul Henshaw. So there we are. That's just a quick, it's only a quick video, because I had to get this out because I was trying to get another bike out, because I'm going out tonight. I'm trying to keep all the bikes in circulation, but while this was out I thought, oh, I'll just push it out and have a bit of a video. But yeah, I was going to take all the handlebar fairing off it, and the panniers, and the seat, and put them all on a 500, because the 500 I've got is a bit more lively, sort of say, for getting anywhere. But this will do it. I don't know crumbs about that. Yeah, I mean, there was questions about Indian quality. Yes, I mean, the Indian built bikes weren't particularly well made. You know, they were pretty much thrown together as they came. You know, you can see lots of little things on them. I mean, to our eyes, because we had the original ones over here, didn't we? I mean, with the Reddish built Bullets, and they are really nice. No faster than these. They've still got the same sort of character. That's the word I'm looking for. But yeah, I mean, they did increase the quality a little bit towards later years. But yeah, the grease in the gearbox is a no-no really for our country. You know, I prefer gear oil myself, because there are gears in there, and gear oil is for gears. And they say, oh, well, they'll leak. Well, they don't leak, not really. Shouldn't do. If you've got good gaskets on the end cover and good oil seal in them, they won't leak. But grease, it's just so old-fashioned. You know, I mean, I've only ever come across a few grease-filled gearboxes from the 30s. You know, some really early Sturmey Archer gearboxes, some very early Berman gearboxes fitted to mattresses and stuff like that. But you know, generally, it's you know, you don't put grease in your car gearbox, do you? You know, I mean, it just doesn't work. I mean, look at automatic transmission fluid. Look how thin that is. That's what I use in the primary chain case. The clutch loves that. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know what else to say about it really. It's just a lovely old bike. I just love all my Royal Enfields. I'm a Royal Enfield nutter, I think. You know, but I love them all for different reasons. You know, they've all got different characters, they've all got different charms, they've got virtues, and no real faults that I can't live with, you know. You can improve them a little bit if you want, but what's the point? Brakes are really good on it, indicators, chargers, starts first kick, what more can you ask? Does about 100 miles to the gallon. So yeah, it's great. So if you're considering getting an earlier Enfield, don't worry about them. I mean, the 500, one of the 500s I did yesterday, I think I did the video, that's 2002, so that's fairly, it's not early for a Royal Enfield, but it's an earlier version. So you think the quality's not, the quality's just as good as this. I've had no problems with that. In fact, I'm going to do an oil change tonight on that, so I might not be going out quite so early, but yeah, it's now due for an oil change. So oil and filter, bit time consuming when you do an oil change, because that's your oil filter in there, behind that cover, and you unscrew the nut, take the plate off, take the little brass washer off, take the spring, all the rest of it, and then you can get the filter out. That's your oil pumps, that's your return oil back to the tank from the crankcase, and that's your feed pump, and they're little reciprocating pumps. But you really need, after you put a new filter in here, you need to fill this up with oil. But because it's laying on its side, the easiest way to do it is take, this is the feed quill which feeds oil into the crank, straight into the crank for the big ends. Unscrew that, undo all these screws and pull that cover off, and then you can take this light over on one side, the cover, and you can fill that right to the top with oil. And then you want to get an oil can up the end of the crank and squirt a load of oil in there, take this off, squirt a load of oil in there which goes straight into the bottom of the crankcase, so it's got something to throw up over the pistons. Doesn't take long, not long, it's just a case you've got to undo the screws. I can get this off without taking the exhaust off, you don't need to, and without taking the gear lever off, which I'm quite lucky with. Some you don't, it all depends how badly the exhaust pipe's made, you know, a lot of the pattern ones don't fit. But yeah, there we go, that's it. Simple little motorbike, lots of fun, lasts for years and years and years. So yeah, I didn't plan on making this video, but there we are. I thought I'd better do. Hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you, bye bye.